So as Alabama is looking forward to the next election, they're of course gerrymandering districts like most states and like to do to make sure that they find the win that they're looking for. It's worked all across the years, but now they're begging the Supreme Court to allow them to continue to skirt what the Supreme Court told them to do months ago. So Alabama Republicans are looking for them to let them dilute the power of black voters by again eliminating a second black district of majority black voters. And they said, you already got one. Wait to see what the majority is in that one district. Again, that flies in the face of what the Supreme Court told them to do. So let's go straight into this. In a brief order on Tuesday, the High Court denied the state's request, handing a significant victory for voting rights advocates and a group of black Alabama voters who sued over their design for gerrymandering. There were no noted dissents from the Supreme Court. The ruling could also provide a boost to Democrats in their quest to retake the House next year. Rather than using the Republican drawn lines for 2024, the order paves the way for an independent expert appointed by a panel of federal judges to design the boundaries instead. That court-appointed expert is set to submit the final map in the coming days. Hold on. It has to be a news story for us to see that an independent expert that maybe could do something with gerrymandering or drawing district lines would do it without any political leanings. And that's from Democratic or Republican sides, by the way. Because yes, gerrymandering happens no matter what, because they're politicians and all they're trying to do is find a new way to get in without actually appealing to their voters, any kind of way that they can. Except when it's on steroids and you have to go up to the Supreme Court and you're still fighting to directly eliminate black voters, I think it's kind of gone a little bit crazy. So anyways, after the Supreme Court originally ordered Alabama to create that second district in which black voters either comprise of a voting age majority or something close to it, they said, just be close. You're like, sure, well, we did that. So their second map, let's look at it now, which the Supreme Court just rejected, kept one district meeting that majority by 50.65% and increased that second district from a 30 to 40% black. Again, last I checked, 40% is not the majority, but they said, yo, it's the closest we get. I mean, what do you want us to do? We hate black voters. What are you talking about? So that darker purple spot is that 50.65% in that one district and the other's only up to 40 because that's how we do democracy, I guess, in Alabama. So still, this is part of the reasons why when Voting Rights Act was getting pushed back and dismantled from back in 2013 and continued on to this day, the reasons why they've targeted certain states that have to get approval from the federal government as far as their gerrymandering or their voting rules that always disenfranchise very particular voters is because there's a history behind that. You have a track record and he wants to just ignore that. That's what they're looking for. And luckily this one time it's been put on hold, right?
I think one of the ironic things about this is one of the reasonings the Supreme Court gave, their justifications for dismantling the Voting Rights Act was that it had served its purpose, that we weren't seeing instances of, intense voter disenfranchisement like this. So clearly it had served its purpose and we don't need it anymore. So I hope that the justices who were there and helped write that opinion, think about that every time one of these, maps comes before them and they have to make a ruling on it. I'll also say that one of the issues that I think need to address with this is a lot of these heavily gerrymandered maps that disenfranchise black voters were the maps used in the midterm elections. So we saw this massive disenfranchisement. We didn't see this massive red wave that Republicans were talking about, which I think is a good thing, but we did have these maps, a lot of them were in effect. They did disenfranchise people in the midterm election, and we saw the effects of that. But yeah, the other thing I want to say is I think a lot of us have a tendency to look at a congressional map and we'll see it shaped weirdly and think, oh, this must be some horrible gerrymandering. But a lot of times, as one example I was used is the way the districts are chopped up here in Chicago it's strange because it'll essentially look like a C shape, like a very thin line on one side and then like another big group on the top. And it's to marry the two heavily Hispanic areas of Chicago. And that's what a lot of these districts that they create to, make sure that black voters are enfranchised and we have more, Black politicians elected into federal office. They have to look like that. So just because a map looks a little bit finicky, like the one we're going to talk about out of Florida, doesn't necessarily mean that it's being gerrymandered for bad purposes. Sometimes that's to, help protect the voting power of Black and brown voters.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.